Monica had everything she ever wanted, or so it seemed. At 50 years old, she owned a large beautiful house with tall windows that let in the morning light. She had a successful business she had built from the ground up and enjoyed the luxury of traveling whenever she wished. Her life was full of material comfort, but despite it all, something was missing. Each evening, she returned to an empty home and sat alone in her grand living room, surrounded by silence. The loneliness, though the quietness, was there like a shadow she couldn't shake. One morning, after her previous driver had retired, a new young driver arrived at her house. His name was Chris. He was only 25 years old. Monica watched him from the window as he stepped out of the car, his youthful energy apparent in the way he moved. He had short, neat hair, a bright smile, and an eager look in his eyes. Monica opened the door. Chris greeted her with a respectful nod. "Good morning, ma'am," he said with a warmth that caught her surprised. "Good morning, Chris," she responded, trying to keep her tone formal. She was used to people addressing her with that same polite, distant tone, yet something about Chris made her feel easy almost immediately. She couldn't explain it, but there was a gentleness in his voice that softened the barrier she usually kept up between herself and others. Over the next weeks, Monica and Chris settled into a routine. Chris drove her to meetings, to lunch with friends, and sometimes just to park where Monica liked to sit and read. He was punctual, professional, and respectful. But soon, Monica started noticing more than just his reliability. She noticed how he always greeted her with a genuine smile, how he would open a car door for her with a little extra care, and how he would always make sure she was comfortable before started driving. His kindness was not forced, it was naturally. One afternoon, as they drove through the city, Chris told a funny story about something that had happened to him at the supermarket. Monica couldn't help but laugh. It was a deep, joyful laugh, one she hadn't felt in a long time. She hadn't realized how lonely she had been until Chris started to fill the quiet moments in her life with the light-hearted humor. It was strange. This connection with someone so much younger, someone who was technically just a driver. But the warmth in his eyes, the kindness in his action, it all made her feel something she hadn't felt in years. As days went by, Monica found herself looking forward to their car rides. She couldn't wait for a moment when they would talk, share jokes, or simply sit in a comfort silence as the world passed by outside. Chris wasn't just a driver anymore. He was becoming a companion, someone she felt oddly close to. And yet, every time she caught herself feeling that way, she reminded herself of the reality. He was 25 and he was 50. She had lived an entire life while he was just beginning. But no matter how much she tried to push the thoughts away, there was something undeniable about the way she felt when Chris was around. The kindness in his eyes, the way he treated her not just as an employee, but as a person. These were things she couldn't ignore. Monica told herself it was just a passing feeling, something harmless that would fade with time. But deep down, she wasn't so sure. As the weeks turned into months, Monica's connection with Chris grew deeper. Though she never acknowledged it loud, every morning she looked forward to seeing him. And every evening, she found herself thinking about their conversations, replaying them in her mind as she sat alone in a big empty house. She knew these feelings were wrong. She was 50 years old and Chris was only 25. He was young, full of energy, and had his whole life ahead of him, while he was entering a phase where people slowed down. It didn't make sense for her to feel this way, yet she couldn't help it. One day, as Chris was driving her to an important meeting, Monica found herself watching him closely. His hands gripped the steering wheel confidently, and he hummed softly to the music playing on the radio. There was something about his presence that made her feel safe, like everything was going to be okay as long as he was there. She hadn't felt this comfortable around anyone in a long time, not since her late husband had passed away years ago. Chris glanced at her through the rearview mirror, catching her staring. "Is everything alright, Mama?" he asked with a familiar kind smile. Monica quickly looked away, embarrassed that he had noticed. "Yes, everything is fine," she replied, her voice a bit too sharp. But everything wasn't fine. That strange, fertile feeling in her chest had returned, stronger than before. Monica felt like a young girl with a crush, something she hadn't expected in that case. It was ridiculous. She was old enough to be his mother. What would people think if they knew she was having these thoughts about a man so much younger? Despite trying to push her feelings aside, Monica couldn't stop thinking about Chris. Each time he smiled, her heart fluttered. Every time he held a door open for her, her hand stirred with the urge to touch his. It was a burst. But the more she tried to ignore it, the more these feelings took root, growing deeper inside her heart. One evening, after a long day of work, Chris drove Monica back home as usual. The sun was setting, painting the sky in the shades of pink and orange. There was a peaceful silence between them, but Monica's mind was always about something else. As they pulled into her driving way, Chris turned off the car and got out to open for her. "Thank you, Chris," Monica said quietly as he stepped out, her voice almost trembling. "You are welcome, Mama," Chris replied, his eyes meeting hers for a brief moment. In that moment, something passed between them, something unspeakable but undeniable. Monica felt her heart skip a beat, and she knew Chris had felt it too. That moment ended quickly as Chris looked away, clearing his throat. "I will see you tomorrow," he said before walking back to the car. Monica stood there for a moment, watching him drive away. Her heart was pounding, and she could feel her hands shaking. What was happening to her? Would it be that Chris felt the same way? No, it was impossible. He was young, and she was just an employer. Yet the way he looked at her just now, it wasn't the look of a mere driver. It was something deeper. Monica walked into her empty house. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions. She had spent years building a life of comfort and success, but now, all she thinks about was Chris. Was it just loneliness driving these feelings, or something was real between them? Or was there something confusing? We don't know, but she knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. Monica's emotions began to bubble beneath the surface. but she did her best to hide them. She reminded herself every day that Chris was just her driver, nothing more. But it was getting harder to believe that. She could catch herself staring at him, daydreaming about what it would be like if things were different. It was a foolish fancy, and she knew it. One afternoon, Monica's friend Sarah came over for tea. Sarah was a sharp, outspoken woman, and nothing ever escaped her notice. As she sat on the table with Monica, chatting about their usual topics, Chris came by to check on the car. He smiled and waved at them, as he always did. Once Chris disappeared around the corner, Sarah raised an eyebrow and looked at Monica. "You've been spending a lot of time with that young driver of yours," she said, her tone lightly but probing. Monica teased, "He's just doing his job, Sarah." Sarah replied, sipping her tea. "He's a bit too friendly, don't you think? I've seen the way he looks at you." Monica's face grew hot. "Chris is a good man. He's always respectful." "I'm sure he is," Sarah said, setting down her cup. "But Monica, he's half your age. You don't want people to talk, do you?" Monica's heart sank. She hadn't thought about what other people might think. She had been so focused on her own feelings that she had forgotten the outside world, the judgment, the whispers that would surely follow anyone found out about her feelings for Chris. She tried to laugh it off. "You're reading too much into it, Sarah." But Sarah wasn't convinced. "Just be careful, Monica. You don't want to ruin your reputation over a young man who probably doesn't even know what he wants in life." After Sarah left, Monica sat alone on the balcony, staring at the sky. For the first time, she felt the weight of her feelings. She had to make a choice. Should she listen to her heart and risk everything, or should she protect herself from inevitable judgment that would come if she pursued something from Chris? Her mind told her to keep things professional, but her heart was ready to go far. The next few days were tense. Monica tried to keep her distance from Chris, but it was impossible. Every time he smiled at her, every time he asked her if she was okay, she felt a pull again. She couldn't deny the bond they had formed. He wasn't just her driver anymore. He was someone who understood her, who made her laugh, who made her feel alive. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Chris drove Monica home. As they neared her house, he glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You seem quiet today, Mama. Is everything alright?" Monica hesitated. She didn't want to open up to him, but the words split out before she could stop them. "I've been thinking a lot lately," she said softly, "about life, about everything." Chris parked the car in front of her house and turned to face her, his eyes full of concern. "If you ever need to talk to someone, I'm here." Monica looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted to tell him everything, how she felt, how much he meant to him, but she couldn't. Instead, she just nodded. "Thank you, Chris. That means a lot." For a moment, they sat in silence, the air between them thick and unspeakable words. Then, with a quiet sigh, Chris smiled and said, "Good night, Mama. I'll see you tomorrow." As Monica watched him drive away, she realized that no matter how hard she had tried, she couldn't keep her feelings hidden for a long time. The bond between them was too strong, and soon she would have to face the truth. Monica's emotions continued to swirl like a storm, growing more intense with each passing day. She struggled to maintain her composure around Chris, and although they spoke often, she kept their conversation strictly professional. Yet every time she saw him, her heart betrayed her, skipping a beat as if reminding her of the feelings she could no longer ignore. One Friday afternoon, Monica had an important business event to attend. It was a charity gala, the kind of event she typically went alone, mingling with fellow business owners and donors. As she prepared for the evening, putting on her best gown and the finest jewelry, she felt a strange sense of anticipation. Tonight, something felt different, though she couldn't explain why. Just as she was about to leave, Monica received a call from one of her friends, informing her that her planned date for the gala had fallen through. Normally, this wouldn't bother Monica. She was used to attend events solo. But for some reason, tonight she didn't want to go alone. A thought crept in her mind, one she immediately pushed aside, but it returned stronger this time. Maybe Chris could accompany her. The idea seemed ridiculous at first. Chris was her driver. The age difference between them was surely raising eyebrows. Yet the more she thought about it, the more she wanted him to be by her side. He was kind, charming, and made her feel comfortable. Something was really rarely felt at such events. With a mixture of nervousness and excitement, Monica made her way to the garage where Chris was waiting by the car. She hesitated before speaking. "Chris, I was wondering, would you like to join me tonight to the gala?" Chris looked at her, clearly surprised by the offer. "Me? Are you sure, Mama?" "Yes," Monica replied, her voice firmer than she felt. "I'd like your company if you're free." Chris smiled and Monica felt her heart flutter. "Of course, Mama, I would be honored." They made a quick stop so Chris could change into something good, a sharp suit that made him look even more handsome than usual. As they arrived at the gala, Monica felt a strange sense of excitement. This was the first time she had ever brought Chris to a formal event, and the thought of walking into the grand hall with him by her side felt thrilling. As they entered, all eyes seemed to turn towards them. Monica was used to being the center of the attention at such gatherings, but tonight it felt different. With Chris by her side, she felt both pride and self-conscious. Whispers followed them as they moved through the crowd, but Monica ignored them, focusing instead on Chris's calm presence. Throughout the evening, Chris proved to be more than just a driver. He charmed everyone he met, engaging in conversation with Monica's business associates and friends. He treated her with a care and respect, always attentive to her needs. It was as if they were more than just employer and employee, though neither of them acknowledged it. Monica found herself laughing and enjoying the evening in a way she couldn't in years. When the music started, she hesitated for a moment, then turned to Chris with a soft smile. "Could you like to dance?" Chris's eyes lit up and nodded. "I would love to." As they danced under the shimmering chandeliers, the world seemed to fade away. Monica was accurately aware of how close they were. The warmth of Chris's hands in hers, the way his eyes never left her face. It was the most natural thing in the world, yet also the most confusing. She wasn't just dancing with her driver, she was dancing with a man who made her heart race. The evening passed in blue. But one thing remained clear. The bond between them had deepened, and neither could they deny it any longer. The next day, Monica couldn't stop thinking about the gala. The way Chris had looked at her, the way they had danced together, it all felt like a dream. But with that dream came a wave of guilt. She knew she was crossing the line. Even if nothing had been said out loud, he was her driver, much younger than her. People would talk. Her thoughts were interrupted by a call from a friend, Sarah, who had also been at the gala. "Monica," Sarah said with a teasing tone, "you certainly made an impression last night. Everyone was talking about you and your date." Monica's heart sank. "It wasn't a date," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Chris was just accompanying me because my original guest cancelled." "Sure, but it didn't look like that way," Sarah said with a laugh. "People are saying you two quite make a pair. I even overheard some flock speculating about whether something is going on between you two." Monica felt her stomach at rest. This was exactly what she had feared. She had allowed herself to get too close to Chris, and now people were talking. She thanked Sarah for the call and quickly ended the conversation. But the damage was done. Her mind was now swirling with doubts. Over the next few days, Monica noticed a shift in how people treated her. At the meetings, her colleagues exchanged knowing glances when she mentioned Chris. At social events, whispers followed her and she could sense the judgment in the air. It wasn't fair. She hadn't done anything wrong, yet rumors were already spreading. One afternoon, after an especially tense meeting, Monica returned home feeling overwhelmed. As she stepped out of the car, Chris noticed her sober expression. "Is everything okay, Mama?" he asked gently. Monica sighed, rubbing her temples on. "Chris, everything is not okay." She hesitated, but then the words splitted out before she could stop them. "People are talking about us. They think something is going on between us, and it is affecting my reputation." Chris frowned, clearly troubled. "I'm sorry, Mama. I never wanted to cause you any trouble." "It's not your fault," Monica said quickly. "I'm the one who let this happen. I let myself get close to you, and now people are gossiping." Chris looked at her, his eyes filled with caution. "If you want, I can leave. I don't want to make things harder for you." Monica's heart sank at the thought of him leaving. "No," he said softly, "I don't want you to leave." The tension between them hung heavily in the air, but neither of them knew how to move forward. They were trapped between their growing feelings and the harsh reality of the world around them. Monica didn't know what to do, but one thing she was certain, she didn't want to lose Chris, no matter what others thought. The rumors continued to spread, but Monica tried her best to ignore them. She couldn't let other people's judgment dictate her life, yet the whispers ground at her confidence. Even so, her bond with Chris deepened. It became harder to deny the attraction that smeared beneath the surface. One afternoon, as Chris was driving Monica to a business meeting, she decided to open up the feeling that had been weighing on her. The car ride was quiet, save for the soft hum of the engine. Monica found herself staring out the window, gathering her thoughts. "Chris," she began, her voice hesitant, "I've been thinking a lot lately about us." Chris glanced at her in a rearview mirror, his expression serious. "What do you mean, Mama?" Monica took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "I don't know how to say this, but I think I've developed feelings for you, and I don't know what to do about it." Chris remained silent for a moment, his face unreadable. Then he pulled the car over to the side of the road, turning to face her fully. "I've been feeling the same way, Monica, for a while now." Hearing her name from his lips sent a shiver down her spine. For the first time, they were acknowledging the connection that had been growing between them for months. It was a dangerous step, but Monica couldn't hold back any longer. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above the whisper. "We can't. People won't understand." "I know," Chris said quietly, "but I don't care what other people think. I care about you." Monica's heart raced. It was the first time someone had spoken to her like this in years, with such honesty and care. But as much as she wanted to follow her heart, the reality of their situation loomed larger. Could she really risk her reputation, her business, and her social standing for this young man who had just captured her heart? The decision weighed heavily on her, but in the moment, all she knew was that she couldn't imagine her life without Chris.